I'm gonna have to get an email sent over to you. They sent me to one of the permits. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Is the best email for the info at Untitled? Okay.
So does that have Hebrew name and date of death?
There's date of death. We were not provided with Hebrew name, but I imagine the rabbi gets that. I bet he'll have it. But it looks like date of death was the 14th.
Amigo es más voltas por matraca.
¿Botes?
Yeah, the grandes.
Oh, bolsas.
Bolsas. I said bolsas.
Bolsas.
Say botes.
Say
Oh, no bolsas. Bolsas.
Bolsas.
Someone.
It's good to see ya.
Nice seeing you. How you doing?
Good. How are you? You feeling good?
I'm immune.
Quit rubbing it in.
Yeah, you guys got to worry about catching it.
Yeah. Hi, Rabbi. Do you have a Hebrew name for Judie?
I do.
Okay.
Sarah Leah.
Sarah Leah. Okay, I'll tell her. Sarah Leah.
So
Hello,
I
Rabbi.
don't know that they're going to have a program. You don't know how to reset?
We can go ahead and preset.
Yeah, go ahead and preset.
Okay, perfect.
Rabbi. Sarah Leah. Sarah Leah.
What was the father's name, Rabbi?
Speed.
Hirsch. Okay. How come you always catch Hirsch this week? Before you get out of here, is Jay coming today or no? That one that he just sent. Every day there's so there's somebody else beside him on the other side. What is not sure. So we need to do this one didn't happen. We know that. No, I thought you were walking up there. Oh, yeah.
Hello, sir.
The hardest day. It's the hardest day, Roger.
You know, that's what real good food comes down. Bang.
It's all day. You know what? Until you get back home, then because the pictures, share story.
Don't say it's bad. Judie. That's true.
Good shot, Roger. Aaron Ainbinder, I work with Jay over at Mondevo's office.
Oh.
If there's anything we can do, let me know.
You know, I told her, I said, it'd be nice if she'd buy a tree.
There you go.
Yeah. I have a question. I don't know if I covered it in perpetual care. I don't know if I've got that in mind.
No, the only thing prepaid is the plot.
Okay. I want to do perpetual care too.
Yeah, we've got. Did you want to see the stuff now or should
No,
we?
I don't want to.
No, we'll be in touch afterwards.
Yeah,
Please.
please.
Some stuff in the mail, perpetual care and open and close. No,
Okay.
we'll do it that time.
No, I know that's good. It's written out something. Did you want to share some words now or later on?
If you knew that I'm lucky I had her for 60 plus years.
I mean, when
No,
It's a long group of notes.
close to 64. Been
What's your anniversary date?
August 21st. That's how big the anniversary is.
Well,
Yeah, you asked
I don't know if you have anyone else.
No, this is it.
Matt and Laura. Hey guys.
were actually joking about the shower.
Matt and Laura, if you guys can come over here. Tracy and Seth, please also.
Morning.
Guys, is that okay?
Yeah,
We can rearrange these however you need as well. We can move more to the
You
front.
don't want to sit down yet.
No, I don't think people falling.
So when we spoke on the phone the other day, and we talked about the Priya, Laura, this is going to go right over your part. And that's going to go over your part. Roger, yours right here, maybe.
Aerating the lawn.
Okay, so as they have it all a little bit closer, we talked about the whole idea of Frida and Terry. In about a moment, actually in this text, you'll see from the 3rd chapter of the book of Hosea, it says there's a time for tearing and a time for sowing. And the tearing is surrender. There's a tear in our heart. And as you were trying to put your words together, and the photographs, and you're thinking, what can you say about Dorothy? You've known since you were kids, for goodness sakes. Judie.
Oh, that, yeah. That ran in the family. Not the
But
other.
you,
She lived long
how do you find the words?
and prospered.
Right? So our answer is to make the tear. Make the tear. And God, we say the following. Yes, all of it.
Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai,
She had COVID, but she didn't
Eloheinu melech haolam dayan. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, creator of the universe, who is setting what it is due. And he's a judge of truth. Dayan, judge of truth. Judge of truth. So what's truth?
Once they give up, they give up.
One word. See, you're right in the center. Yeah.
That makes you
And that's the truth that we have. And we're all going to be ending up here. Susan, my thoughts are over there.
And what? The peg is up.
That's the truth. Closure part. There's another truth. This is Julie's truth.
Yeah, if she could come out and rearrange stuff. she
Strength.
would.
The values, the love, the patience.
Maybe it gives her an out.
She had, right? The warmth that she had, and that quick smile that she could have to just get up and go. These are the things that are all true.
I figured so.
And then you're going to mention some of that, and certainly I'm going to talk about that. I know that Dorothy and Jerry are going to share a few words as well. So we tear this. It's not torn in half. It's not destroyed. There is time for sowing. There is a time of healing. That's not right now.
It's okay, it gives her an out.
Okay, good.
We're torn up. Right now,
It is where it is, unfortunately. It doesn't want to
searching for
I
sitting
guess
a life
not.
without her that you can't even imagine. And so we deal with the loss, with the tear, with the truth of what happened. This happened, and as you get together, you're all going to be gathered at the home, right? You'll share your story. The truth that
Yes, God takes away. God has given us life, and it doesn't go forever. Yes. We had Judie in our lives, and she was also a part of who we are. Oh God!
I was all lazy.
I know. You know what? And you'll be again. You're
Okay.
It's okay. Even if you're not okay. I'm trying to figure out how to turn the speaker on.
No, give me a break.
You would be kind of strange if you weren't upset. Okay.
That's your mother fix it.
Yeah.
Only this.
Working all the time, right? Yeah. Got it.
No,
The Bluetooth on or off? On or off?
but they're in Bluetooth. There's the
Okay. Thank you.
company.
Well, everyone make yourself comfortable. We can move the chairs as needed.
I'd like to.
Oh,
Would
Yeah,
you
I'd
guys
like
like
us
to
all
come sit?
here if we could. Is that possible?
Yeah.
We just move them closer. I'll move them.
Just a friendly reminder to silence your cell phone.
Oh God, I'm so glad you guys are here. I know.
I don't have silence.
You don't have silence? It's a commercial.
It's it's an ad. I knew you were making fun of that.
That's fun.
You know, this day, which I know we've been just dreading as she was struggling over these last couple of months. This day would have been a day in which we'd have been in the Zwerin Sanctuary, and it would have been hundreds and hundreds of people. And Roger and Laura and Matt, Tracy and Seth, you guys would have been surrounded by family and friends and people coming up and just expressing from the depth of their heart the feeling of loss. Now, Dorothy and Jerry, Gottlieb, you're here to represent all of those friends, but that's okay. You're the two oldest friends, not in age, but getting close to that too. But you've been with Judie and Roger, goodness, since Pittsburgh, and you were the reason why they even came to Temple Sinai so many years ago, and you're like family to them. So it's a small group right now. And Roger, I'm sorry, but just imagine that you're in that Zwerin Sanctuary and imagine all the people there. Now, they're going to be on that camera right now, and they're participating by just watching and crying and remembering And as they remember, they can have those sweet smiles from the good times that you two shared with them. And so we're going to find the words that express some of the feelings that we have, but all of the words that we will express, they have to be matched up to that which is in our mind's eye, those memories, those feelings. And Roger, you have, as you said, 64 years, 60 years of marriage and 4 years plus from high school through your Navy days and all the rest. Goodness sakes, she's been a part of you for most of your life. And so we'll remember all of those good times. I just pray that the words that we share will have meaning, will bring you some comfort. Shabiti Adonai lenagdi tamid kimimine balamot lachen samach libi vayagel kevodi at besari yishkon labetach ki lo tazov nafshi lishol lo titen chasid chalirot shachat. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, and I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exalt, and my soul rejoices. My being is secure, for you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful one see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Enduring happiness is the realization that though Judie is no longer with us physically, nothing can take away the sweet memories, the impact of the love and the warmth that she shared with everyone. So in these difficult days and all the days to come, we'll remember her. So on that very front page of this handout, and many of you who are watching, I have the PDF of that as well. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, because Judie Gershaw is a part of us for as long as we remember. If you turn to that next page, there's the 23rd Psalm, the psalm that's beloved of so many different people of different faiths, but our Hebrew prophet wrote it down to remind us that though we walk through that valley of the shadow of death, though we are all but mortal, we don't have to live in fear. And she didn't either. She lived with courage and strength. In Hebrew it says, Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echzar, binot deshi yarabitzeni, amei menuchot yancheleni. Nafshi yoshavev yancheni memagalei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elek b'geit zamavet lo irara ki etayim adi. Shivtecha mishentecha chema yanachanoni. Ta'arok lefanai, shochan neged orai. V'shanta v'shem roshi kosira vaya. Achtov v'chesed yudavoni kol yimei chayai. V'shafti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. Let us say together a psalm of David. Adonai, you are my shepherd, and I shall not want. You give me rest in green pastures and lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul and guide me in straight paths for the sake of your name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over with bounty. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Every Shabbos, there's the tradition of reciting Eshit Chayu Mi Yimtza, a woman of valor who can find. A husband says this for his beloved, reminding himself and his family how blessed they are to have such a strong Eshit Chayu, a woman of valor and strength, of humor and goodness. A woman of valor who can find. She's more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hand to the poor. She's clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her children sing, her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. Right before the service, Roger and Laura and Matt, we put the ribbon on that was the kriya, that is the tear. In the old days, it would actually tear a garment, whether your lapel or a tie or a pocket. And over time, you would base it, you would sew it up, and there would always be some sign of it. Nowadays, we put this little ribbon on because you can put it on all the different clothes that you have in your wardrobe, as opposed to us going through there and ripping all of them up. Dorothy would not.
Yeah.
Judie would not have liked that.
Yeah.
So this is where it comes from, this sign of tearing, a time of tearing and a time of sowing. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born, a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted, a time for slaying and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time for grieving and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones, for removing stones, and a time for gathering those stones together. And we can see those stones gathered together as a sign of remembrance. A time for seeking, a time for losing, a time for keeping, and a time for letting go. A time for tearing, a time for sowing, a time for silence, and a time for speaking. Judie and Roger, you were two of the first people that I met some 16 years ago. It was one of the meet and greet sessions during the interview process. And the gathering included the Glassmans and the Steins, and the Tobins and the Jacobs, the Allens and the Smiths, the Schwartzbergs and the Schwartzmans. And of course, Dorothy and Jerry Gottlieb were there. And Judie Gershaw and her beloved Roger were the center of it all. I have photographs of that gathering, and I've been keeping those in my briefcase for the past 16 years because it was an important meeting. Rabbi Zwerin was there, and it was, again, one of the very first meetings that I had during that interview process. And I knew that these were among the beloved core of the Temple Sinai community. Past presidents, board members, leaders, doers, and shakers, sure. But what impressed me most was that there was a warmth and there was a friendship that they shared. And I knew that this would be a wonderful home for the Rhines family, and that Susan and I would be blessed to be here. And I know that every single person who knew Judie and Roger shares that same feeling. We have all been blessed. Indeed, whenever and wherever you saw Judie and Roger, their faces would light up with joyful smiles, and so would ours. Note that it's still hard to say Roger's name without Judie, or Judie's name without Roger. When was the last time any of us had said one name without the other? 60 years of marriage together made them role models of a loving relationship. That they also worked together for nearly 40 years in the same business and stayed married elevates them to near sainthood. Judie was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to Harry and Frida Kramsky. The family owned a successful printing business, and Judie and her brother Michael had a wonderful childhood. Though both Roger and Judie attended Washington High School in Milwaukee, they really didn't get to know each other until their senior year. Well, he knew who she was because One of his after-school jobs was delivering fruit, and Judie was a cashier. But by the time of the senior prom rolled around, he suddenly saw Judie as if for the very first time. He was absolutely smitten, and they were falling in love. Judie was accepted to the University of Wisconsin, but this was during the time of the Korean War and the Cold War, and Roger enlisted in the Navy. Still, they knew what they had was so special that it was worth the wait. So Judie earned her Bachelor's of Science in Social Work while Roger was in the service. After the service, Roger had an attractive offer to go into the plumbing business, but Judie insisted that he go to college, get a degree. So he enrolled at the University of Wisconsin, and they were married on August 21st, 1960. They soon moved to Fort Collins for Roger to complete his degree. Judie worked for the Larimer County Welfare Department. Actually, they initially turned her down for employment. But she said, either I work for the social welfare department or I'll be broke and the social welfare department will have to support me anyway. It was a gutsy move and a hard sell, but it worked. They hired her. After Roger graduated, they went back to Milwaukee. He worked at an insurance agency, and Judie took on the most important role of her life when Laura was born. Those were simpler times. There was a firehouse just down the street, and the sirens would wake up baby Laura. So Judie asked them to hold off that siren until they were down the block. And they did. Can you imagine doing that nowadays? Roger took a job opportunity in the Pittsburgh area, and that's where Matt was born. That was also where Judie and Roger met Jerry and Dorothy Gottlieb. And I know they're going to share some of their words in but a moment. They've been the closest of friends ever since. Other job opportunities took Roger and Judie to Rhode Island and Kansas City, and then to Colorado. He was a safety director at Coors, but after a while, it just didn't feel right. And after all the moves, Judie was in no mood to pack up again. It just so happens, by chance or by beshert, they saw a sign on a lot for a business that was being built, a rental business. So they took a chance on a franchise. Soon they were owners of All Seasons Rent All, and the rest is history. Actually, retail work is very hard and demanding, and that's where Judie shined. She focused on the party and costume part of the business, and that became the most profitable section. Temple Sinai at the time was in the old Dartmouth building, and Jerry and Dorothy told them about a young rabbi there that they really liked. Well, soon Judie and Roger also made a wonderful connection with Rabbi Zwerin, and they became very involved at Sinai. Before I invite Matt, and I know Laura, you'll just stand with him as a supporting sibling, and then the Gottliebs are going to share their loving memories. And tonight, by the way, when we have our Shiva Zoom call at 5 o'clock, Matt and Laura put together a slideshow of photographs for Judie, and that'll be a wonderful time for all those who should be here, who would have been in the Zwerin Sanctuary, to tune in and to share their stories and express their, of course, sympathy to you, Roger, and to the family. But I want to point out that tonight, right as we are tuning in at 5 o'clock for the Shiva Zoom, and the sun has set, tonight it's Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the new month of Kislev. Now, the month of Kislev is the month of Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. But for the past 2 nights, there has not been a moon visible in the sky. The beautiful light that brightens the night has been missing. That time, as you note, has coincided with the passing of our dear Judie. Her light, too, has been missing, and the darkness of loss can threaten to overwhelm us. But tonight, if the clouds part, we'll see the sliver of the new moon. It is as if to remind us to rekindle light, to rebuild and renew our lives, even after a heartbreaking loss. That's our duty. Judie was an irrepressible light, Her warmth, her friendship, her joyful spirit and strong determination lives on now with each of you, and with each of us who have had the blessing of knowing her. Let us honor Judie by keeping her light shining. Matt and Laura, would you come and share tributes for a moment?
Well, that's a hard act to follow. Growing up in our house with my mom was a great way to grow up. It was kind of like an episode of Leave It to Beaver. She made sure we got a good education, 3 good meals every day, and lots of family time playing games or watching TV shows like The Lawrence Welk Show, The Love Boat, and Fantasy Island. It was a very wholesome childhood, and we were lucky enough to have our mom who made our childhood special. Sharing all the holidays with the Gottliebs was a big part of our childhood that Mom held dear and looked forward to every year. We would do one night at our house and one night at Dorothy and Jerry's. Both are great cooks, but no one makes matzo balls better than my mom. Sorry, Dorothy. No disrespect intended. Claire Felsenberg, Dorothy's mother, would always say that they were so light and fluffy, they would float away if we didn't eat them. My mom is the only thing I will miss more than her matzo ball soup. We spent a lot of time when we were younger at Temple Sinai, going to religious school, which Mom taught at for a few years, services, and the always fun Purim carnivals. She really enjoyed being involved in the temple and socializing with all of her friends there, and all the friends that her and my dad made there. I'm sure many of you are watching this from home right now, and we're sorry you all can't be here with us. Mom loved nothing more than getting together with friends and family and doing anything as long as it was together. As we got older, we would do more with our friends and less with their friends, as teenagers will do. But she would never let us skip out on the high holidays or any special family occasion. At the time, there were several of these that I would have rather gone and hung out with my friends, but Mom definitely wouldn't let that happen. Now that I'm older and a little bit wiser, I really do appreciate the fact that we did all these things together as a family. It's meant a lot to me and definitely helped make me who I am. My mom's love for being with people and doing fun things with them naturally lent itself to her being a success at helping people plan their circle of life events. Even more than that, she enjoyed an offshoot of the business that she started, costumes. Once she started down this furry path, she couldn't be stopped. She loved all aspects of the costume business. Helping the customers find that right costume or accessory, going to the shows, seeing all the costumes, and when they arrived at our store, it was like the first night of Hanukkah for her. She loved opening all the boxes and remembering all the crazy things she had bought and couldn't wait to display them to see the looks on people's faces as they walked through our store. I truly believe that this ended up being her favorite hobby. Our mom will be missed by all of us. She was not perfect, but no one is. We love her exactly the way she was and couldn't have asked for a better person to have as a mom. Thanks.
We first met the Gershaws in 1970 in the Pittsburgh area. Judie was the instigator of the meeting, and that she belonged to the Pittsburgh Newcomers Club, and we were newcomers just moving into the Pittsburgh area. That's Whitehall and Brentwood area. Gorgeous. And soon found out that Roger and I worked at the same place at the Medicine Atomic Power Laboratory. He is a safety engineer, and I was the reactor engineer on the Nimitz and Eisenhower carriers. So we had a connection right off the bat. We've shared every holiday we could ever think of, and spent the holidays, joined each other, celebrated our lives together. It has been a wonderful, wonderful relationship. I'm just sad that Judie's no longer here to enjoy our holidays. And she was last over our house over Rosh Hashanah, and enjoyed sitting there, watching the kids and everybody. And we just had a marvelous time. So.
So I know we're family. And the reason I know we're family is because Judie adopted me. So when we got to Pittsburgh, we did not know anybody. And we didn't even know why we were in Pittsburgh, except Jerry had a job. So she invited me to the Whitehall Newcomers Club. And that's where it kind of started. My earliest memories of Judie were at her house with her two little kids. Laura was Matt's mom, temporarily, being a few years older. And we just had a really good time together. I remember things like Roger holding Rachel and at an ice cream parlor and having Rachel reach over and grab the ice cream, or Matt climbing up the ladder to see his dad when he was 2, which scared everybody to death, but it was okay. It was Matt. We had all the times together afterwards. We did not understand why you moved 3 more times in order to get back to us. That was a bit much. We wrote letters back and forth.
But we ended up in Colorado.
You did end you finally won an argument. It was great. So we were happy to have you back. My kids love you and your kids, and always have. It wouldn't be holidays without you. Judie, her activity at Temple Sinai once involved doing the Sinai cookbook. And talk about you can't go home from here. There wasn't anybody who was on that committee who didn't have a better recipe or a better way to do something. And Judie was calmly moved through the storm. I tried to help as best I could, but there was always her. So we got rid of her and it was a lot better. We just really enjoyed each other a lot, and I'm sad Judie's gone, but Judie's voice lives in here and her one-liners live in here. She always had one for the best of times. She just came through, and even lately, she would have a one-liner here or there. So I will miss her dearly. She was a dear friend, and but she's not going away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful tribute. And I know that everyone who's watching feels the same, and you'll have your own time to share this evening. I turn to this next page, to page 4. Let us read together. It says, life is a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage from birth to death, to life everlasting. In but a moment, they're going to begin to lower the casket if you're able to please rise. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר יצא אתכם בצלמו. עזר וחפר אתכם בטובו והעמיד אתכם בדין. ונתן בתוככם חיי עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני דיין האמת. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who forms us in the divine image, who nourishes and sustains us in goodness, and has made us mortal, and yet who has implanted within us immortal life. We praise you, O God, judge of truth. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני רע להושיע, וחכה החיים בחסד, לחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. צמאת נופלים ברפא חולים, מתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמות ראשוני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך, מלך באמת ומחי מצפית ישועה. ברוך אתה אדוני נוטה בתוכנו חיי עולם. Eternal is your might, O God, and all life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living, and with great compassion you give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive and keep faith with those who now sleep in the dust. We praise you, O God, who has implanted eternal life within us. This is earth from Jerusalem, and the Feldmans has made it possible for us to have each in our own hands a little bit of that earth, and we'll place that with Judie, and then of course some of the earth from Denver, and on your future travels, maybe something back from Milwaukee or Pittsburgh or Rhode Island or wherever else you've been. But the idea is that this earth from Jerusalem, Mount Olives, it overlooks the Harabayati, the Temple Mount, and it was considered the holiest place in which a person could be laid to rest. Not everyone could be buried there, but they made it possible for us to bring a little bit of there here, completing that circle of life from our ancestors from the time of Abraham and David and Solomon, and of course Sarah and Rebecca and Leah, to this day, in which this land connects them with our eternal home.
Ooh, that's true. That's true.
Of course.
Oh, God. It's interesting. Robert being right next to us.
The mitzvah of Devorah, of covering the casket, is the most difficult. We have to do. This is the last physical thing that we can do to protect the body, and it's necessary. First, with the shovel forward, with the back of the shovel, and then turn it over. Because we say, as hard as it is, we have to do this. We have to make sure that the earth that's protecting for Father remains. And place that by people who are after you place this, after you've shoveled, then put the shovel back into the now. So each person will be able to fulfill it in its entirety.
Yeah, just go on in there. Would you guys like to taste those ones?
Yeah, I have to show you. There's pictures from that meet and greet.
Oh, that, I don't remember that, but I remember.
I'll show you.
You spend an hour standing there.
Yeah.
I was waiting to get back and see
I'll show you the picture before we leave. They're wonderful pictures. Yeah, I know. I know, right? Well, here's the thing. Look, they have these little ones here.
I want to do something that'd be mine with her.
Yeah. On the trip. When we're going to go around, you'll find,
Oh, God, yeah.
you'll find some beautiful rocks. And, see, this will be for Stan. Of course, they'll kibitz for Judie.
Yeah. Yeah. Standing.
Is it really?
Oh, that's nice. Next to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, mother.
You know something?
It can be overwhelming. You don't get to focus on your own feelings. You know?
What?
So we're going to do with a prayer and a promise.
Yes, I was glad to get there.
So if you'll please turn to page 5. The concluding prayers, of course, include the El Molin Achamim and the Kaddish. The Emily Rachamim makes reference to Judie's Hebrew name, Saralea bat Tzvi Hersh. And Dorothy, you were the one who said that Judy still lives on. And that's exactly what this prayer says. If you look at the bottom of the headstones, there's an acronym, the Tav, the Nun, the Tzadi, the Beit, and the Hey, and it stands for Tihyeh Neshama Tzarabas HaChayim. May it be that his or her neshama, her soul, is bound up in the bond of everlasting life, B'chayim, with life, but also Chayim, with the living. You know Judy lives on with you. You'll always feel her with you. And so as we chant this, just feel that presence that she has in your own soul. She's bound up with you as she is bound up with God. El Malei Rachamim Shochein B'Maromim Amseh Menucha Nechona Al Kanvei HaShchina V'Ma'alot Kedoshim V'Tochorim Kozar Rakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Sarah bat Tzvi Hersh Shalachan Olamam Began Eden Dieh Menuchata V'chein Bal Rachamim Yastireha B'Sedek Anafav Olamim B'Yitzror HaChayim En Nishmata Adonai Unachalata V'tanuach V'shalom Al Mishkavam V'nomar Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, we pray that you will grant perfect peace and eternal comfort in your sheltering presence to the soul of our beloved Judie Gershaw. God of mercy, protect her neshama forever. May her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. Adonai, you are her portion. May she rest in peace. Let us say amen. On that next page, you find the words of the Kaddish Yatom. We say the words slowly in her honor and memory. We say, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah be'alma devara cherotei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon et yom ha'achon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yeh shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ul almei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalech v'yithalal shemei d'kodisha v'rifu le'ela minko b'chata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yeh shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'imru amen. In our concluding words on page 7, we say, for the ties of love that death cannot sever, for the companionship we shared along life's path, for those gifts of heart and mind which have now become a precious heritage. For all this and more, we are grateful. Now help us, O compassionate God, not to dwell on sorrow and pain. Help us instead to find within our hearts the courage to return to the tasks of life and its joys. Amen. Roger, our heart goes out to you and to Laura and Matt and Seth and Chase and of course Jerry and Dorothy and all the friends, people absolutely adored your beloved Judie. They adored both of you, and our hearts break for you. We are all mourners today. So we look forward to at 5 o'clock being able to tune in, and again, the family's put together some wonderful photos, and we'll look at those and share those memories. And in the coming weeks, we'll continue to honor her memory. Roger's going to take some time to rebuild a life, to reinvent a life after more than 64 years together. And you're not going to make that all by yourself. You have your family, you have your friends. We're here for your community. We'll walk with you. As traditionally, in the time of mourning, we look to our loved ones who are struggling with grief, and we say, "Hamakom yenachem etchem, v'tok sha'ar avolei Tzion v'Yerushalayim." May God, who's makom, makom means place, the God who's in every place, may God comfort you, with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. We say, Amen. Go forth with life, go forth with peace. Amen.
Dad,
You have to.
yeah, just like 1 second. Do you want to keep the flowers here? Really do. And they're so beautiful. They are so beautiful. After they finish filling in the rest of the grave, they'll put that back on top.
Thank you. Thank you. Where is the building that I come to? Because I want to set up this call.
Okay. So Aaron can answer another question.
Where's the building I come to see you, or do you have a card?
He wants to make sure he pays you.
For perpetual care.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Grab a piece of paper and I'll write down that name. Okay.
She'll certainly follow up with you. I'd say don't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have plenty to think about right now. Yeah. And just one more thing, I'm gonna put a bag in the limousine with 2 Shiva candles and some acknowledgement cards. So make
Okay.
sure you grab that on your way out, okay?
Thank you.
Of course, we'll be in touch. You guys be well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.